Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to address knee pain, but more specifically knee pain behind the knee. If you have a foam roller or a lacrosse ball at home, you can use either or. The lacrosse ball is going to be a little bit more intense than the foam roller. So what we're talking about today with this knee pain that we typically get behind the knee, it can happen if you started running a little bit more than you're used to, maybe doing more jumping, or even just at home body weight squats can cause this. So first thing we're going to talk about is tension in that calf. So whether you're using that lacrosse ball or the foam roller, we're going to have a seat on the ground. So when we're working through the calf, it's better to actually keep your butt on the ground. We're trying to find wherever it feels more tender for you. So you might feel it more towards the inside portion of that calf or the outside portion. We want to make sure we're actually working through the calf itself. So this top portion, you might actually even find that it's a little more tender towards the top where it's closer to behind that knee. If you need a little bit more added pressure, you can add that other leg on top, but really we're working small movements at a time. If Dennis here with the foam roller was wanting to work a little bit more towards that outside, he can just rotate that leg and lean towards that outside, or he can do the same thing towards the inside. If you find a really tender spot, you can even just let it sit and hold and add pressure to help release that muscle. Whenever we're working through here, we want to work through for at least 1 minute at a time. If we're using the lacrosse ball, we want to try to avoid working through an area over 2 minutes because you can actually aggravate that tissue. The next thing we're going to do is address the hamstring. So right now we're basically addressing everything that attaches into the back of that knee. So with the foam roller, we're going to stay on the ground. With the lacrosse ball, we're going to try to come and find a hard surface. So with this foam roller, it's a little easier if we use the edge of the foam roller. You can actually rotate more towards the inside or the outside to get a little deeper in that hamstring. If we're working straight through the center, it's hard to find those tight, tender spots. With the lacrosse ball, we're sitting on a hard surface. We're actually going to have that leg bent to start. We can press and add pressure. And then all we're wanting to do is straighten the leg, hold for a few seconds, and then bend again. And you want to try to find wherever that feels more tender for you. With the lacrosse ball, try to stay in the center of the hamstring, but you can work right and left, just focusing more towards that center portion. Again, same thing. We want to work at least 1 minute through an area, avoiding going over 2 minutes on that lacrosse ball. Next thing we're going to do is stretch through these areas. I'm going to give you a couple different variations with this first calf stretch. If you feel more tension towards the bottom, one might work better for you, or if you feel more tension towards the top, the other one might work better. So Dennis is going to show us a stretch that you're going to feel more towards the bottom of the calf, while JP is going to show us a stretch that you're going to feel really all the way through the calf and even the top of the calf and hamstring. So right now they're both stretching the right leg. So JP is going to feel this more towards the top of the calf and even possibly into that hamstring, whereas Dennis is feeling this more towards the bottom portion of the calf. Both are great stretches. You can do one or the other or both. Same thing, we want to hold for at least 1 minute. Or with any kind of stretch, you can hold it for 2-3 minutes. Just avoid getting any kind of sharp pain or tingling feeling. And last thing we're going to talk about is stretching through those hamstrings. So they're both going to demo the same stretch for me. It's going to be a pinning stretch for those hamstrings. It's going to make it a little bit more intense than just the typical bending down and touching your toes. So they're going to start in a squatting position with their hands underneath their toes. From here, we're just straightening our legs as much as we can, keeping those fingers underneath your toes and keeping those toes down. We want to hold for 5 seconds, and then you're coming back down into that bent position. Good. And then back up. If you're not able to straighten your legs all the way, that's fine. We want to just straighten the legs as much as you can. We want to repeat this 5 times with the toes pointed straight. You're then going to do it 5 times with the toes pointed out and 5 times with the toes pointed in. The out and in are going to feel a little awkward, but what it's doing is getting the different parts of your hamstring. We have multiple bands running through there. Again, If you're unable to straighten your legs all the way, that's completely fine. The goal is just feeling that stretch. So straighten them as much as you can. We're working towards the goal of being able to straighten them all the way. Again, this is going to address knee pain in the back of the knee. Hopefully this helps you guys out. You can repeat these exercises multiple times a day. 3 to 4 times a day is just going to help you get to that recovery faster. Thanks.